So my best thinking got me here. My thinking and the way I looked at life was wrong. It came from the self and the ego. When we don't come from that point of view, momentarily we can feel good when somebody compliments us. This is momentary. And the same with our addiction. Momentarily we can get pleasure. It's momentary pleasure with the food or anything else in our life. It's momentary pleasure. Then on the other side is more pain because we need more of it because we're coming from getting our happiness from pleasure on the outside. The joy is in here. There's nothing anybody could teach or tell you. The joy is here. I used to ask 10 people how to handle my life. I used to go to all kinds of professional, I had hundreds of self-help books. Didn't help because it was coming from the self, trying to figure out something that was crazy to begin with. And that's where talk about, it's about surrendering, letting go. Anytime we have the truth of the joy and happiness, the falseness is the negative thinking. When you think of the immenseness of the universe, and we go around and being finite and thinking about these little problems in our lives, like I say, we come from dust. I love that. We're going to dust. We can walk out of a house and get hit by a truck now. Acceptance is the answer. Again, we do accept things in our lives. When it's related to our ego, we don't want to, right? You walk into a building, you have to walk through the door. You don't even think about it. Our natural way to be, the real truth is, and it says in the big book, Knowing the Truth from the False, is that joy, peace, and blissfulness is really the way of our being. We take it upon ourselves to become our thinking into the negative lower levels of thinking and getting involved with our emotions and our feelings. So the way out of that, there's a simple way, is to be the observer of them. Just observe them when your emotions come or whatever happens in life with anger, fear. Because once we realize the truth, and the truth is that they really don't matter, or they're really negative thinking, and that they're real when we get centered, just like little children are when they're centered, they're happy, right? It just all starts with step one, saying we're powerless. If you know you're powerless over something, you accept it. Just like, when we go through life, we know someday, for an example, at least some of us maybe every day fear death, but most of us accept it, right? We can accept anything. It's just when we try to think we have power and can try to control it, then that's where the ego gets involved. Why would you want to control anything anyway? Think about that. Why would you want to control people? Do you realize when you try to control people, you're trying to manipulate them? But who's being manipulated, right? A person spends their whole life trying to be powerful, control people, be successful, make a lot of material things in their lives, right? So who is being controlled, right? You want to be a free man, just a free woman. It's just about letting go. It's all about that. Why we do everything is to be happy. How is this related to our addictions? It's everything to do with it. It's a 12-step program, right? And it has to do with addictions to alcohol, drugs, or food. How are you going to get rid of your food addiction? Knowing the truth from the false. Knowing that when you have these feelings of hunger or gluttony, right? One of the 7 deadly sins, that there's a way out of all of this. There's a way out. Surrender already. And step 10 promises says that, when we have stopped fighting anyone or anything, by this time, sanity will have returned. So we have to realize where the problem insanity comes in. I always never realized the problem was me, Bob. I was trying, every time I tried to control something, I made it my higher power. I tried to control my addictions to food, alcohol, or drugs, or whatever it was, or people. If you like the video and want to spread the message, press the like and subscribe button. Thank you. Trying to control the situation, getting people to like me, having, making food or whatever it is, what we think about the most is our higher power. So we have a way out. Again, when we get upset during the day, just know it's not true. It's not true. You could be resentful, angry, depressed. How about depression, anxiety? It usually comes from something from the past. We don't know. We know the past can be an illusion and the future isn't even here yet. But the whole point is when I'm upset, restless, and irritable, discontent, I'm taking my self-will back. So if you want to be in the present, be joyful, and get our happiness and joy out of living, becoming one with everything, not very finite in our addiction, right? When you get a plate of food, again, I'm talking about compulsions towards food, that compulsive thinking. The whole problem with compulsive thinking is this. It's not so much the problem. Like if we have a compulsion towards fear, it's not fearing something, it's fearing the fear or anxiety. We say, oh no, now I'm going to get anxious. Now I'm going to get gluttonous, how about that? Ravenous towards this food, then the fear comes in and we can't get centered and know how to handle the situations. Because this is all taking us, all of these problems, and our thinking takes us out of the intuitiveness, knowing. Our mind and our body knows what to do. We just get in its own way. And I use the example, we have the autonomic nervous system. It knows how to digest food, right? It knows everything about it. It knows how to, everything. And it really knows the correct amount of food to eat. We get in the way of it. But when we get centered, that will come back to us. But we're in self-centered fear. When we try to control it through our diets, and they just don't work, because we're coming from the point of view that the food is powerful, that the drug is powerful, that people have power over us. So we have to fight them. We have to fight the food. What we resist the most is our higher power. So you want to get in and be joyous and happy and one with people, with your food, and be returned to sanity. Step 2 said there's a way to be returned to sanity, and that's step 3, right? Having that faith in a higher power. Here, some people come on the meetings, they have such strong faith in whatever it is. And I tell the story about they had a lecture. So it was a debate between an atheist and a person who believed in a higher power, God, in God. And so they had the debate. At the end of the debate, they had questions and answer periods. So the people came up to the podium. One guy came up and he said, look, a few months back, I accepted this higher power in my life and I just let it all go. And that power came in and I felt the power and flow with me, and my life has been great since, and everything, all my problems went away. He says, I probably have the same problems, but I relate on a different basis now. So the guy who was debating the atheist, he said to the atheist, listen, the debate is over. You hear this guy? This is proof. It's proof. By the way, we made ourselves a higher power. That was the problem, right? Our crazy thinking. Again, step 2 said we had to be restored to sanity. So here I went through my life until I did these steps in the 12-step program, which, by the way, the 12 steps and all this stuff is related to all philosophies and religion. I've read many books on all of these things, and believe me, everything that I read was philosophy. Eastern Western philosophy is in these first 164 pages of this big book in the 12 steps. The 12 steps alone. That's why Bill said many times in the book, it's the answer to all our problems.